Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1513A, and today's date is March 5th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, As the Economy Collapses, Those in Power Are Taking Sides. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we can see, we've been talking about a transition, and we've been talking about cryptocurrency, and we've been talking about the central banking system. And we can see at this point that we can go in either direction depending on how everything unfolds. Now, what is happening in the crypto market, we're starting to see companies like Amazon and many others looking to accept some form of cryptocurrency payment. Germany is not going to be taxing those individuals that are using cryptocurrency to purchase goods. We see right now that PayPal, on March 1st, they filed a patent application for an expedited virtual currency transaction system. And it looks like they're preparing to accept cryptocurrencies. And the last time it was reported that PayPal filed a patent application related to cryptocurrencies was back in mid-2016 when it showed plans for a modular payment module that accepted Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. Now, according to Bitcoin.com, the patent filing reveals that PayPal might be considering expanding its exposure to the cryptocurrency ecosystem with a new system for speedy transactions. And what I think is happening right now is they're starting to realize that the crypto market is going to play a very, very important role in the next economic system. And these corporations are looking at this and they're realizing they need to get on board. Now, if we stay with the fiat system like the central bankers want us to stay in that direction, they will probably introduce some form of cryptocurrency, but it will be theirs. Now remember, they can have governments sign into law where they say every person has to use this cryptocurrency. They did it back in 1913, where they said, okay, everyone will use our printed dollar. That is the currency, period. They can do the same thing with cryptocurrency. And this is why we see there's a battle going on between the fiat system and the cryptocurrency system. And this battle is going to wage on as we move forward. Now, we've been looking at many different indicators, and each indicator lets us know that things are deteriorating very, very quickly. And one of the indicators that we're looking at right now, which is a leading indicator, this is why the Fed gets worried when this indicator flashes red, that's credit problems. And credit problems always appear first at the margins. Now, the credit problem appear first among the most fragile, most at risk, most strung out borrowers with subprime credit ratings. And the small banks and bigger banks, they went after these types of people very, very aggressively. And we're starting to see there's a major problem in this area. Now, small banks, they pushed with all their might into credit cards, loosening credit standards, lowering credit score requirements, raising credit limits, and offering new cards to people who already had maxed out their existing cards and had limited or no ability to service them from their income and no way of paying them off, and thus are stuck with a huge amount of debt, and their balances are very high, interest rates are very high, and these individuals are in trouble. Now, for small banks, it was the holy grail to profit from the American debt slave. There are about 4,888 commercial banks in the U.S. There are the top 100 banks, and then there are 4,788 smaller banks, those with less than $14 billion in assets. Now, we need to remember that these banks, they were paying next to nothing in interest to their depositors, but they could charge 25 or 30% interest on outstanding credit card balances. The interest rate spread between these two products was incredible, and this is why they loved it. They loved what was going on. Now small banks are getting their clocks cleaned by these American debt slaves. Because what is happening right now? Well, a lot of these individuals, they're maxed out. we're seeing a huge charge-off rate right now, and people are in trouble. And we're starting to see that these banks, these smaller banks, they are writing off a lot of these credit card failures. Now, the banks have been writing off losses, and they spiked to around 7.5% in the third quarter and 7.4% in the fourth quarter. And this is coming from the Fed Board of Governors. Those were the highest charge-off rates since the second quarter of 2010, up from 4.6% a year earlier and up from 3.5% 2 years earlier. Credit card charge-offs at the largest 100 banks are also increasing, but very slowly, because what they did was they offloaded the weight of who took out a credit card and who handed out a credit card over to the smaller banks. So the bigger banks didn't have to feel the brunt of all of this. And what we're seeing right now is something very similar to the 2008 Great Recession, where we saw charge-off rates at small banks. Well, they hit a peak around 8.8% of the fourth quarter of 2009. So we're very close to 8.8%. We're already at 7.4%, and it's continually trending higher and higher. Now, the smaller banks, the 4,788 smaller banks, they hold a very small portion of all banking assets, including credit card balances. So this might not even jeopardize the financial system, but the surge in charge-offs at these banks does give a glimpse at the credit problems at the margin. And this is a leading indicator for a broader cycle, because we saw the same thing happen back prior to 2008. Now, it doesn't matter who's holding the credit cards right now, which bank, but what the most important thing is that these credit card charge-offs, they are rising very, very quickly. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. And this is another indicator to let us know we are back to where we were. Now, everyone is out there, and the corporate media, the government with their manipulated statistics, the Federal Reserve, everyone's looking at everything, saying everything is pretty good, except for the stock market. It's bobbing up and down. And no one is realizing that we are back in the same exact position as we were prior to 2008. But this time it's a lot worse, because the banks are completely insolvent. There's a lot more people out of work. We have a lot more debt. The Fed used all its tricks and brought the interest rates to the lowest level we've seen in like forever. And right now we are in trouble. And the Trump administration, they understand this. And what they are doing right now is they are pushing the entire system to the edge. And this is why they're pushing tariffs, reciprocal taxes, because you have to remember, the system we're in needs to be destroyed. This is not a system for the people. It was never designed to be for the people. It was designed for the elite, the deep state, and the rest. And to get rid of all of these individuals, you need to cut off their funding. This is what's happening right now. And I said time and time again, Andrew Jackson is hanging on the wall in the White House in Trump's office. There's a reason for it, because Andrew Jackson campaigned on getting rid of the central bank, and I do believe this is where Trump is headed. Now, there are many corporate media articles out there saying that, Trump saying that, tariffs will only come off if a new fair NAFTA is signed. He doesn't even want NAFTA. The only reason he had to go into negotiations is because of all the interlinking that went on with Congress, where it was very difficult just to say, let's scrap it. They did this on purpose to make it very difficult to get rid of it. And what we're seeing right now is he's saying that, no, we're going forward with this. He doesn't care. And what I mean by that, it's not that he doesn't care about the people. He doesn't care about the establishment system, the central banking system. Why do you think the corporate media and all these individuals are screaming and yelling and everything like that? Because they're very nervous and afraid on what is going on right now. They know what's going on right now. And we can see that the individuals within government, everyone is starting to take sides. Because we need to understand that when we have a reset in the economy, it's not just a reset in the economy. It's a reset in government, a reset in who is in office, a reset on everything. And these individuals now, they're starting to take sides. I mean, Paul Ryan is out there saying, no, this is a really bad deal. We shouldn't do this, on and on and on. And we can see right now that they have certain groups, certain entities, certain obligations that they have to go along with. And this is why they're voicing concerns. Now, we see right now that this entire market, and this is all about bringing it all down and how everything is repeating itself once again. Now, the markets from 1929, 1987, and today look very, very similar. I mean, if we look at the S&P 500 and the Dow from 1987, the S&P 500 now, the Dow in 1929, the graphs look almost identical, where we have the bubble pushing the markets up, we have a couple dead cat bounces, and then the whole market comes down. The only difference today is that they have a better understanding of how to control and how to manipulate the market. But the most important point of all this is that they're doing the same exact thing. Eventually, what they're going to do is bring it down. They want control of the narrative. When I say they, it's the central banking system, the deep state. They want control of the narrative. And this is why they're trying to maneuver and set everything up, but it's getting very, very difficult because there is a race to shut this whole thing down. And they realize it and they understand it. Now, when the central bankers shut it down, they're not going to be shutting down their system. They need to reset and move it someplace else because the system is dead in the water. Plus, it's a great distraction. Plus, it will clog the news cycles. Plus, they can point the finger and blame it on someone else, most likely Trump, and then have another country maybe to blame on with a cyber attack into the financial systems, which they're pushing right now. Trump, on the other hand, he's maneuvering right now, saying that everything that they set up right now is completely unfair, and to make it fair, we need to basically tax and place taxes on imports coming into this country. And the reason why the central bankers didn't do that, because they didn't care about that. They didn't care how the system worked. Actually, they were in the process of moving everything out of this country. That's why they didn't care, because they knew that this would only keep for a certain period of time and they have to move it off. And this is why they've been moving manufacturing, setting up NAFTA. They wanted TPP. This was all part of their plan. And here we are today. And we can see right now it is a race to see who controls the narrative, who brings the system down. And we see right now that the system is completely unbalanced. And what Trump is doing right now, because we don't have manufacturing here anymore, we don't have a trade system, we don't have anything. And when the system is reset, when we go through this gigantic reset, the United States needs to be prepared to be on the new system. Might be a crypto system. We know that China most likely is going to have all the trade, they have all the manufacturing, they have the Belt and Road, and yes, the United States is going to have to join eventually. And we're going to have to start to bring manufacturing back to this country. Everything has to be reversed. And this is not for this system that we're in right now. This is all being set up for the next system. And we are getting very, very close to that point in time. And this is why we see all of this chaos happening right now. Because we're at the end stage. And this is what it looks like when you're at the end stage. Go back in history. You'll see it. Tariffs, and a lot of people saying that this is going to lead to war. But I don't think Russia, I don't think China, they're going to move towards war. The only reason we went to war before is because the central bankers pushed it in that direction so that they could have this gigantic distraction so they can move the economic system someplace else because they knew their system was dead in that certain area. This time, what Trump is hoping to do is to shut down that part of it. Hopefully he succeeds, where we don't have any type of an event that brings us into any type of war. But we can see right now we are headed to a major calamity. we can see that it's going to either be a very, very hard landing or a little bit softer, but we're still going to go through a transition. A lot of people are going to lose their wealth. The value of the dollar is going to lose its value very, very quickly. Yes, we're going to see inflation. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, credit's going to freeze up. Yes, it's going to be very difficult to get oil into the country, but don't worry, we have oil in this country to protect against that. But it's going to be a very difficult time. And if you remember back in 1971, and I mentioned this many times before, when we were going off the gold standard onto the petrodollar system, that was in the beginning stages of their new system. We were still the reserve currency, just that the dollar was now backed by oil and the full faith credit of the United States. But we went through a little bit of a problem there where we had high unemployment, I should say. They had to raise the interest rates quite a bit because they were printing money like crazy, so we saw inflation. That's because the value of the dollar was losing its value very, very quickly right in the beginning once we came off that gold standard. Here we're at the end. They have no place to bring the interest rates except lower. They can't bring them up anymore. As you can see, the housing market's falling apart as they bring the interest rates up. This is what it looks like at the end of the system, where the market, they push up as high as they possibly can. It's completely meaningless because most of the corporations, they don't have the sales. Actually, look at UPS, FedEx, and the rest. Their sales are not that great with, shipping packages all over the place. Now they're blaming it on Amazon because now they're shipping, so they're getting into the whole thing is to keep you confused. If online businesses are doing so wonderful and everyone is shipping, why are these companies having a problem? It's not just Amazon. There are many companies out there that do shipping, that sell online. So once again, they're confusing. They're making us believe that something is happening when it really isn't. Just like back in 1971, they told you it was all a gas shortage. We can't find any more oil. I don't know where it is. And then how many years later we have plenty of oil? Come on. We're going through a transition right now, and they're trying to confuse people. They're going to be using chaos, and it's going to be a very rough period. This is why you need to be prepared with food, water supplies, gold, silver, cryptocurrency, cash on hand. You need it all because we don't know what's going to happen, and it's better to protect yourself with all of that than to have everything in the bank, have no cryptocurrency, have no gold, have no food and water, and when everything falls apart, you're sitting there scratching your head going, how am I going to survive and get through this? Because I just went to the market, the shelves are completely bare, and they're saying deliveries won't be here until another week. So we can see right now that if you haven't been preparing, get prepared. If you have been preparing, keep preparing. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.